Hey everybody, what's going on? Sorry for the earlier test stream. I actually reconfigured some stuff in OBS and it prompted a restart, and when I turned my computer back on, well, all my settings are gone. So I had to reconfigure my scenes and set up the stream key and all that stuff. Anyways, I'm just going to set up the restream and watch me work. And that should do that. Okay, cool. Where are we? Okay. Where did we leave off? I believe we were working on our item inventory pickups, that sort of stuff. So let's open up our main character class here. And I'll just move everything over, try to keep it all the work I do in view. And we're gonna jump into our inventory items and get our master, because we probably want access to that. Hope everyone's doing well on this Thursday. What is Thursday, right? I will quickly pull out my comments so I can see them. Oh, hey! Kratos Toast. Love the avatar, by the way. I'm doing well. I hope everyone else is doing well, too. I'm going to continue working on this inventory system. And you want to also set up my controller plugin. So I want to make sure everything's working with our gamepad. So, we have all these items here. I set up a hotkey. If we take a look at it here, it's actually a new system, or sorry, a new function called inventory check. It's set to my I key on my keyboard, and it basically counts all of our items we have in our inventory array and displays how many slots that those items would require. It's a little imperfect right now because it's counting double, but you know, that's what we're going to fix up today. Yeah, when we press I, we get our slot count. So the idea is if we pick up, you know, these two items, we can see that it has a required slot count of 2. Anywho, let's check out this resource control. Errors. What are these errors? And let's grab this guy here. Let's set some data on these. Alloy. That's fine. We can also apply this here. And let's set the item count to 2. Pile and save those. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing either until just now. Didn't know you can do live in YouTube under 1,000 subscribers. I think all you need to have is just a verified account. They send you some email confirmations and that sort of stuff, and I believe you're good to go after that. Okay, let's see here in our item master. We actually want to be working here. Inventory check. So you can see how the math is breaking down. You know what? We're counting up our inventory here, but we need to let's move this over right here. Yeah, so right here, it's pretty simple. We check each item in the array against the inventory for quantity. And then from that quantity, we are able to increase our item slots that we're counting over here. And that just gets tallied up at the end. You want to know what the game is about? Well, it's, if I were to sum it up as simple as possible, it's sort of a third-person adventure game with some light RPG elements, and it features themes like super heroism. You know, you have things like special abilities. It's set in a post-recovery type setting, so there's a lot of mystery and intrigue to the world. There are lots of underground ruins to explore. But right now, I am working on some inventory stuff, just to make sure that inventory is tracking correctly. Reduce the volume of the music? Noted, absolutely. I'm actually super grateful that you told me that. Yeah, I mentioned I recently had to reconfigure my OBS settings, so it's really good that you let me know that it was a bit too high in terms of music. Okay. Yeah, so I reduced the volume of the music. Let me know if this is better. We probably want to take each item in the inventory and do something else here. I have a hunch we're going to make use of this array. So what I want to do here is basically add each unique item and add to stacking array. So for each item in our inventory, we can get rid of that. for each item in inventory, we want to check. Item name. Whoops. Excuse me. We want to break this. And we can actually use the name to test against. That should be fine. Does this contain this? That's the check we want to have. Yep. Let's get rid of this for now. Okay, so yeah, so for each item in our character's inventory, we're checking, does this item exist inside of our stacking array? If it does, we do nothing. But if it doesn't, we want to add an item. Or perhaps even we want to set element. That might be better. Set array element. And yes, has to fit, of course. Oh. My sticky fingers. Okay. Make this nice and neat. The index position should not matter. And once we set up our stacking array, we want to execute this instruction here. Maybe we can just lower all this down. Just want to make this as easy to read as possible. And then we want to do, for each item in that array, we want to check against how do you want to proceed from here? We want to check what's in this array. No, we want to take this from here. Yeah, it would flow like this. For each item in inventory, we add a a reference to that item type in our stacking array counter. After that's done, we proceed to counting actual counting takes place here. Let's just create a little bit more breathing room. So as it is right now, we're checking each item in our array against well, this is a little redundant. On execute, we should clear out our counting array, and we should execute right into here. This is referencing the inventory already. Let's go and make a note of that inventory here. And afterwards, this is correct. We should be coming from here. And then we're accessing these arrays for counting. But for each item in our counting array, and this is where it's a little weird, we actually want to check against our entire inventory. Basically, it's gonna work out to something like this, where this is, and let's call this a, in the stack, and this is a reference to our actual character inventory. So for each item we've populated up here, we want to count through all of it. Let's break this out. It's a little repetitive. So this seems confusing, but I believe it's gonna make perfect sense, I think. So based on how many of those are the same, then we increase our item counter here. And after this actually gets called here, and after we're done populating our inventory stack, I think this will work now. So just temporarily, I'm going to move this. I'm going to save and compile first, and then I'm going to move this over so I can debug against this in the game view. So let's jump over here. Alright, so if I hit my debug key, sorry, I turn on my debug filter, and if I hit the I key, we can get the print string readout. And the idea is you pick up an alloy, and we're not getting that count happening. Well, let's see as to why. Based on the inventory stack, it may actually just be because I did not have this one wire hooked up into our max stack. Just compiling now, off screen unfortunately. Right, so this is what I was talking about. This wire was not hooked up into here. We're trying to get our max stack readout, so I plugged that into the array item. If I'm still getting a readout of 0, we may have to do some print strings here just to make sure this is hooked up correctly. But I believe it should be. Hey Julio, how's it going? How's it going on this Thursday? Right, so that actually was the reason why our print string wasn't showing, which means the code is correct. It was just missing some key integer values during the math for the print string to read out correctly. Yeah, but the idea is we can collect items, check against our max capacity, and then get our item count. So we're requiring 3 slots from our bag. If we pick up this item, we are getting a pack stock count of 1. Why that is, interesting. For each item in our array, we should be getting a readout of light green and dark green. And only at the very end we should be getting a readout in yellow for our pack slot count. So it looks like what's happening is that we're shifting everything in our array. So maybe I was right initially. Maybe this needs to be an add. We want to add items to that array. So we'll should get rid of this and plug all of this stuff in here. Yeah, Julio, I took note on what you said. I remember in one of the earlier streams you suggested that we needed to update that, the notification colors. So I made it more readable, added the item icon, which was pretty simple, and I also made the colors consistent with the item type. So basically, that notification doesn't last on screen for too long, but we want it to be as informative as possible, and we can convey a item class through color. Alright. So now when we pick up an item of a new type, it should be added in. And there we go. We have our canteen pickup. Interesting. 1 max stack of 4 and 4 with a max stack of 2. So it looks like the readout we're getting is actually incorrect, but the logic, the print string is grabbing the wrong item name. So if we grab this item, the schematic, it looks, yeah, it's looking at all 3, but it's only counting it's only getting the name of the latest item. So what we will do here, is here we're grabbing the item name, and yes, that would be why. We want to check against the item name from here, so it'd actually be this variable. We could actually, well, simply just switch this around. It's still doing the same Boolean check, so it doesn't mess up our code or our instructions, and now we're getting less crisscrossing of our wires. And now our print string should read out accurately. Oh, nice, Julio. I'm glad you like the aesthetics. I think it's a good move, man. I think, you know, colors are a really quick way to classify things and differentiate different item types from other types. Okay, so we pick up this, we have a fancy gift box at 1, divided by 10, all 1, that gets forced to 1, and we have a pack count of 1. If we pick up another item, this should force us to a pack count of 2, because it's counting for both of those item types, and we're getting a proper name readout on our print string, which is super cool. Yep, and now we're counting for 3. So this looks like to be the base code that we're going to be using to track our inventory. Yeah, we have 3 item types. 4 pack slots are being used, because we have 3 alloys. So if we check against our item menu, we can see we have 5 items picked up. Yep, that checks out here. This is actually going to have to be updated, the way that's calculated. But I'm really happy. We're making moves in terms of our progression here for creating our item, our inventory tracking, really. Okay, so let's try and clean up this this stuff. Let me try and do this to the best of my abilities. So the increases slot count for inventory slots. So let's save and compile, and then I'm going to jump over to the item master. So I want to check out what's going on over here. We have a backup of the old setup down here. Right now we set variable for counting, and we add all of these into our inventory. So right now, all we do in our inventory on pickup, or on our item master, we check if item exists within the inventory array. Then set true or false. But that really shouldn't be the deciding factor. I mean, if the item is in the array. Yeah, right now we're just checking if pack is full for open slots and then for stacking. What we want to do is be able to pass off the item type, most probably the actual item data, because that's our array. We almost want to have a, similar to how we had this check pack function previously, where before it was actually using the item menu widget to check, which is, I think, terrible. We want to actually perform an item check on the item here, but we have to call it from our character class. Okay. So, right, so looking at our item master, we want to do something like, from our main character, we want to call immediately. We have to check inventory, right? We have to call this function we just made. That seems like the most logical move to do first. And it would basically be replacing this. Anyhow, jumping back to, let's save and compile first, of course. And you know what? I might add a comment, just so I don't forget what we're working on. Whoops, checking against character inv. And let's actually make this black so it really stands out, and I'll notice it when we come back. Okay, looking at our alrighty. Okay, sorry about that. I just got some notifications on my phone. We want to do our inventory check here, and probably pass. We have to pass some data along, and I'm trying to determine if we should make a new function or use an existing one. This is our inventory check. We could create I'll make a backup of this. Still don't want to lose what we have here. Inventory check. Let's call this backup for now. And in our inventory check, we want to, here we are. We actually want to have an input here of, let's see, add a parameter. We want to add a s_item data. Item to check. That should serve us well. Okay, and in our item master, we probably just want to call this here immediately, and we want to check. Oh, yeah, I want to check our item, the item that we're overlapping on pickup. And the beauty of this, I think, will be that when we work on our shops, shopping or junk shops or whatever kind of shop that sells any sort of item or even item stash, we should be able to make use of the same function to make sure that we can use this stuff. And if we add an output node, this is what's really cool, I think. I think it's cool. We probably want it to be a Boolean output. Is valid, I guess. That might actually be a programming term that I'm using incorrectly. I have a hunch. Yeah, anyways. So after all our loops are done and we've counted our stacks, we want to come here and pass that information along. Is it valid, right? And this would actually be determined most probably by a few checks, one of which would be pack capacity and one of which would be stacking capacity, which we can build, check for invalidity. And as I usually do, we'll make this notable, and let's save and compile. What happens next? Invalid parameter. Where is that? Where is it upset? This probably had a bug because I duplicated the function, but I think replacing the reference with the updated node should solve. Yep, looks good, looks good. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. We want to be able to check what this item is and find out yes or no. Can this, be picked up or not be picked up? So we're going to be replacing we'll be replacing all of this with this, most likely. Anyways, back in our inventory check, let me color this. So this actually gets a little bit simpler because now we don't have to check our inventory stack. All we have to do is check against this one item type. Which is pretty cool. We should be able to plug this in like so. And I also don't think we're gonna need oh wait, hold on. We can make use of this, but we still actually have to check everything. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open up our inventory check backup, and I believe this is what is required of the system. We need to have a function that's basically update inventory. And this is a function we should be able to call as needed. I'll just replace this with these two here. Oops. Why did that? Oh, that's what I rewrote node. Okay, so what I believe we need is a function that we can always check, similar to how if we ever do any adjustments to our character's health, we have a function called update health, and then it checks the values and updates any critical variables, such as the variable that drives HP percentage on the HUD. Similarly, we want a function that we can call whenever we consume an item, obtain an item, sell or buy, that this function would recheck and update, similar to what this is right now. And this is the function here where we actually update and set our pack capacity and pack max. Actually, not pack max. Pack max should be dictated by key items, such as getting a new backpack or whatever. But this is actually where we would update our pack capacity. And it, what it turns out to be is pack capacity is basically the item slots. Pretty much what that is. So we need to set that here. Okay, now we'll get a cool readout of our pack slot capacity. So we have an update inventory function and the inventory check. And I think the inventory check should be done on the main character because it pertains to data on that character, but also because it's going to be called by several different other actors, whether they're menus or actors themselves. So now that we're here back in inventory check, let's make some space. I feel like we're going to have to do some math in and around the idea sort of right here where we are basically dividing to see if we have any space in that item slot. Where if we do, we use this seal function to force it up to the whole integer for our pack slot capacity. Clear this item for stacking. Also, what I should do is update our key here. This actually will be our update inventory. It has been replaced. Now here we have a inventory check. I have to be very careful. These are very similar looking functions at the moment, and I don't want to be working in the wrong one and mucking up stuff that is working as intended. Anyhow, inside here we do not need to add, because we're checking for a specific item type against our inventory array. We don't actually need to add this item, add items from our inventory into the item stacking. That's sort of pointless. It doesn't get used. So checking your inventory stack. It may be something more similar to this, where we are checking directly just thinking about how the logic for this is going to be. We want to check this on a loop for everything in an array. So we're checking the item in using a name check, basically. For let's delete this. So we're checking desired item against inventory for quantity count. The output here at the bottom, this true or false, it's going to have several checks or several branches, one of which is going to be simply a pack capacity check. So we basically want to check if our pack capacity is less than our pack max. So this would be one of the checks. And in essence, if this is true, we don't necessarily need to check for the stacking. Because even if the stack is full, we can create a new one. There is an exception to that. Certain items do have flags for, only one stack for this item type. But this is the initial check, and if it's true, it should go right into our is valid. We probably could drive this with another local variable, but for now we'll just leave it as is. I'll save it. Got some water here. So, for quantity count. What we're doing here is checking for open slots, and how this is going to be done is sort of using the exact same logic. We're counting how many items of this type that there are similar to that exist within the inventory. Excuse me, and I think the name check is appropriate. It should serve perfectly for that purpose. But right here, I think we have to do a branch, I think. Basically what we're checking is if these two values actually the first thing I want to do is just quickly get a print string, actually two of them, and I'm going to make them really groovy, like out there colors. And what I want to check is if we can basically check to see if these are whole. So if we get the divided value here, oh whoops, we do not want text color at all. That should be, yeah, that color. Actually it should be in the string, and this should be in this in string. Right. And this gets called on pickup, I believe. So save, compile, and run in here. And pick up some items and see how this displays. So I believe, if I'm thinking about this correctly, if this value is less than this value, we should be able to stack, always. So I will, yeah, so we're not picking up any of these, but we are getting our print string to read out. And right now it's 0 and 0, of course. Max stack for the item type is 2, is 1, yeah, 10. The data display is correct. It's a little imperfect from my testing purposes. I was hoping to get a better result. We actually need to shove this in here, and I think the pickup functionality should be maintained. So, pick this up. Yeah, 1 and 5, 1 and 1, 1.5 and 2, 2. Yeah, this is, I'm fairly certain this is going to work just perfectly. So let's grab our branch here. And we basically are just going to check if, oops, grab this from here. We want to check if our is less than, another less than check. If it's less than this, and because we're using this item quantity, that gets reset here. We are actually going to need because we're just doing this once for our quantity, we actually don't need this reset here because we're only running through this array once. That can be maintained, and we should be able to just grab this data right here. Then by moving this into that branch node, we should be able to determine, almost like this, and if that's true, we would come through here. I wonder if this could be as simple as an OR Boolean. In which case, if this or this would basically count for it being valid. And if that's the case, we don't actually need all these branches, because whether it is true or not, we're not actually setting that a different instruction. It still routes into the same execution pin. But I still do want a print string here so I know which way this is checking. Oops, okay, right click, print string. And what we should want is for this and this to be passed through but displaying a different text. True has slot space. It must be false, not false. Slots full. And because that's driving here, yep, it's not less than. Cool. And then what we would do, we would probably call in. No, we wouldn't call inventory update here at all. We would call the inventory update on the add to inventory function. Let's save and compile here. Okay, so back in our item master, for the time, actually, you know what, we have a backup of all this stuff. Let's junk this. And we're gonna route through here and basically get that that is valid from here. And if it's true, I'm going to check here either. This also got replaced. And we can route right into our pickup text. Yep, right here. So is item inventory, is stackable, are there slots available for stacking, is all handled so much more elegantly, I think. And if it's not perfect, we're still heading in the right direction. So, nice, we're getting those item pickups. False slots full. True has slot space, and now we should have none. Slots full. Awesome. So this, I believe, is working exactly how it should. Let's just try and clean this up a little bit again. I set item slots to 0. That we don't actually need to count that here. Because we're not checking for slot quantity. We just want to check if there are space on those slots, which all gets checked right here. And then also if the pack itself has so I believe these can all route like this. Whoops, item slots, let's put that here. Right, so let's add some comments. Checks for pack slot capacity. And new slots and stacking space. This stuff here, I don't think we need it at all. Hook up this like this, and let's grab our so to better check that this is working, let's put a really harsh yeah, we want to check out the child classes, I guess. Well, Unreal wants to, so let's do whatever Unreal wants so that it's happy. Beautiful. Part of me actually wants to have 2 output nodes, just so I can properly debug against it. Basically, pack capacity. And stacking capacity. And we can leverage those 2. We can get more data and make sure things are working, and if it's not, at least we'll know where we have an error. Okay, so yeah, we have our 2 output nodes. We check against one and then the other. In terms of hierarchy, we want to, I want to say, always check like this. And we can make use of a print string over here. And the readout would say can stack. Jeepers. Oh my gosh. I want to say it's my mouse that's causing me to have these terrible misclicks. Pack has open slots. And I guess we'll use a third print string. And this one would say no space. Right, because we used to have these readouts down here, but we're probably going to be deleting this very soon. So, yep, when it checked, it did see we have open slots. So, I have a hunch that we were able to exceed our pack capacity because we never did actually update this. Because we have our update inventory where that does get set. But, here's the but. On our add inventory, we never call that. We simply add items to inventory and they get added to our inventory, and that just goes on forever and ever. What we do want to call here is an update inventory. And we want to update it so that we don't exceed our limits. So let's compile and try that again. We shouldn't be able to pick up more than the 4 alloys. Each one can stack twice. And that would 4 would eat up our total stacks. So let's try it again. And when we pick up, we should get our readout. Yeah, slots are 1, right? Now slots are 2. And pack has open slots. And strangely, we are getting a readout that says can stack, but it's not adding to our inventory, even though we can stack. How bizarre. I'm going to take a look at our debug view, try and see what's happening. If we look at inventory check and preview it, I'm going to move this over so I can read it while we play here. Come on, full screen for me. There we go. Yeah, so we work our way through the stacking. In terms of where this is going wrong, I'm going to have to check another one, probably the item. But the challenge here is the item menu has so many children. Gonna have to try all these different debug strings. There we go, found the right one. Let's see what's happening. So we are getting a readout that says okay, so it's actually working perfectly, but like a bogus goof, I forgot to wire this in, that if we can stack, we should be able to pick this up. Because it fails this check, There are no more open slots, but it can stack, and that should read out right here. So kind of ironically, by making my checks and debugs more complex, we had an extra kind of small minor error, but it's not that big of a deal, I guess. So let's see here. Let's pick up our 4 alloys. Alright. Picked up our last one, can stack. Pick up any more, there's no space. Right? Try to pick up anything, there's no space. So, we have an awesome inventory system that tracks a maximum inventory, but also a max stack that each of these can hold, which is now going to be updated to be reflected on our item pack here. This has since been using an old setup. We'll update it to our new modern setup. It is vastly superior. Vastly superior or greatly superior? Definitely more flexible. Yeah, I don't want to add the conditional check. I mentioned there is one more item type that should be able to stack. It's going to be a condition we add in here, probably. It's just that some item types will need to only be... We have to limit the amount a character can carry, regardless of stacks. The idea is sort of similar to how you have, I don't know if you guys play Monster Hunter, but when you play Monster Hunter, you have health recovering items called, potions. And you can only hold 10 potions on your character. And even if you have open slots, you can only hold 10 potions. Because the max you can stack of potions is 10, and the max slots you can have of potions is 1. And that's basically what we're defining right now. Because then, if you didn't have those kind of constraints in place, people could just abuse the design and, stack their entire inventory with healing items, circumventing the difficulty and the challenge that you want players to overcome. Anywho, let's check out my dashboard here. So let's get into our inventory menu. Update that bad boy. I'm gonna save this. Over here we have our item menu. Go inside that folder and we have the widget. Let's check this out. Open it up, and inside we have a very familiar view. We just saw this in game. This is the widget for our items. This is a temporary dialog box. However, here is all this stuff I highlighted is what's driving our the visuals you see on screen. Now this is kind of good thing we have a backup graph, right? So we backed up everything just in case, so we can kind of start deleting and manipulating these values. The problem is this is the way things were initially set up. On our character inventory is where we're setting our pack capacity, which means that every time you do anything, you have to open the pack capacity, or sorry, you have to open this widget to calculate your pack capacity, which doesn't make any sense. But the reason, I mean, it makes sense in certain situations. For our game design, it doesn't make perfect sense. I built this using a tutorial someone else created for a stacking inventory system. And I believe in their design it was perfect because they only needed to consume items from their menu and pick things up on on the floor of the game level. So you would never have these issues of like, oh, are you selling items, are you buying items, or do you have an inventory stash? And if that's the case, if you're just, you know, picking up and dropping items, and the only time you ever have to check, pack capacity, you have to update your capacities if you're going to your menu. That's the only time you can ever really adjust those values. I don't know. In either case, it was from someone else's game design, but I sort of leveraged what I learned from it and create something that's more suitable for our application. Man, streaming is so straining on my voice. I already feel pain. Anyways, let's begin customizing this. So initially we have an initialized delay. This is just for functionality, so we'll keep that. We cast the active character, set to a variable, and then we initialize the design. That's fine, we're keeping that. Cast in game mode to get data. We're also going to keep that, and with a refresh inventory, which we're going to keep. Clears data for each inventory populating. Okay, so this seems to be where the meat of everything begins. Because it's looking for item stacking here, and basically it's looking at our character's inventory, and for each item in the inventory it checks if it's stackable. Checks to see if stackable, and then it checks to see if the names are the same. So if it's not stackable, what happens? If it's not stackable, we have an item stack count, which we add 1 to. But if it is a stackable item, it checks to see if the names are the same. And it's checking to see if the names are the same from the inventory item we are looking at versus this array here. But I don't understand why. Where are we setting this? Okay, let's back this up. Okay, if the names are the same, because this is cleared, this is 0, right? This shouldn't do anything. Like, this should be empty rather. So based on this whole array, which is empty, oh, this is weird music. I can't think with it. Okay. Oh yeah, Julio, good thinking. Should drink some water. But I feel like water doesn't help. I feel like I need, I don't know, some sort of oil. Some sort of oil to, like, make my throat feel better. I don't know. Anyways, the final part of the loop here. Let's see. Here's the deal. If this is empty, we clear it. We're coming up here to see if it's stackable. I mean, this is empty. So essentially, it's just going to be completed the first time we come through here. And once it's completed, we check if the item stack value, which starts at 0, which never gets, this never gets called on our first pass through. Oh, okay, this is cool. So this is 0, and the first item basically gets dumped here. And we set the item stack back to 0. Then we check the next item. And then if we assume that let's say if it's not stackable, we just increase item stack by 1. Okay, I see. So we create a reference to every new item inside of this array. Once it is I wonder if I could just use my code instead. And if it is stackable, we come up here. It's quite interesting. Just slightly confused as to why. Let's find references to this. We need to work in the backup graph. So, I don't see why our code couldn't just, sorry, I don't see why this widget couldn't just exist alongside of the data we have already. I mean, it's still doing what we need to do. We just don't need to be setting up our pack capacity here. But things like the item stacking should do what we needed to do. Okay, let's save and compile. If we look at our item master, yeah, we don't call check pack anymore. Let's take a look in here. So, got one. I only can hold. The pack's limit is 2. If we grab this guy. Yep, we got 2 items. And if we yeah, those should be stacked. Why they are not is a little odd. I'm actually going to pull out the backup graph onto my other monitor to take a look. Oh, Julio, I just saw this comment right now. You got a cool tip for almost like a home remedy for throat pain? Honey. So it was water, honey. So you're drinking water with honey and orange mixed in, and it's got to be warm. Almost like a tea, but just honey and orange. Interesting. I imagine that would feel really soothing, actually. Anywho, let's pull up this backup graph. Increase the size so I can actually look at it. So, taking a look at it. Oh, one thing we should check. Absolutely. Is if I try to sort. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure it wouldn't fix itself on the sort, because then that could really help me figure out where the issues are. Okay. Anywho, let's take a look at this. So let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna pull out the main character for reference on my other monitor. In terms of inventory check, do we even use these? Well, there are no real references to it anyways. We can just remove this. and wire this in like so. So, inventory full. Whoops. It's actually not at all what I wanted to do. Yeah, so quantity of 2 by default, that's correct. And if we pick up 2 items, we still... Yeah, our pack readout is correct, but these items aren't stacking, which is a little bizarre. They're stacking on our inventory, but not on our widget. So I wonder, the idea is from here we begin to place the item slots into inventory, or items from the pack into the inventory. Where in here we organize it, and here we place things onto the widget. And we have a similar setup on our character. Huh. So every time we... Sorry, let me move this back over. Just looking at our inventory, our update inventory function, we have these arrays for item stacking. And basically every time we call this function, update inventory, we clear out these arrays. Wonderful. Jeez. Right. We clear out these arrays, and then we take our inventory and we isolate each unique item and add it into that that array. So I believe we can possibly, and maybe I'm mucking things up, but we always have things backed up, so it's no big deal. I believe we can use that. So instead of doing things right from here, let's just slide this over. What I do want is, we do want this. We want to clear our inventory. Or sorry, we want to clear the scroll box for the widget. Especially if we're refreshing, we don't want to keep adding data to that. I wonder if I can sort of put a comment around this whole thing. Call it reference, change it to group movement, and make it dark. What I'm thinking is, we already have, oh geez, it's already set up here. We already have everything isolated. Could we just take each item in that array and okay, but here we apply the quantity. Interesting. Very interesting. Let's save and compile and then run this in-game. I believe this should just give us our item list. And regardless of how many of each type we have, it will only ever give us one. Yep. But now, because we're calculating our inventory on our character, we can't not really pick anything else up. It's full. Perfect. But once we pick up 2 of these, and this, for example, we should be at capacity 2 of 2, and we can't pick up anything perfect. This is just what my suspicion was. Now let's take a good look at what's happening here. For each unique item, this original plan is for each unique item, we create a button for it, and we get the inventory quantity. And if it's and we add +1, that's fine. Looking at this old setup, oh, this is fascinating. This is doing so much work for this setup. Where each time we come through here, we're increasing the index and its value at this specific element, which is just awesome. Just awesome. So we have 2 options here. We could implement a similar setup on our inventory update. Or we could implement our inventory setup accounting system of our own over here. But that becomes a bit muddier. Excuse me. This idea of updating it as we go is pretty... it makes sense. The only problem is if we try to implement our setup, we only have one reference to each one. What we would have to do is check the quantity, run a similar check here. Well, it would work. It would work, and it's a little less confusing. If I'm going to be honest, this stuff from the tutorial I pulled from originally is pretty... kind of hurts my head a little bit to really like keep track of what's happening right here. If we go into our update, in a kind of simple fashion, we could, let's see what we can make happen. We don't need this, because it's already been set up already. Can we make use of... You know what, this is the most ideal setup. Already I can foresee some of the limitations we're going to have. I just don't think that this should be done on the inventory menu. It should be done on your inventory update function. So I want to move this over here so I can work on my main character. And yeah, let's make some space. know, I'm actually going to make a backup graph. This works for inventory check just fine, because you're checking against the actual inventory itself. In terms of updating inventory, we should be able to alter all of this stuff just fine, and our inventory check is still going to work as intended. Just going to make some space. I'm actually going to be sort of making some use of this stuff, of our existing logic. Let's go create a for each loop for this array, and basically as simply as possible let's make this happen. So we're going to do a for each loop with break. The array we want to use is our inventory stacking array, which is just cleared. On inventory check, yeah, we're not clearing it, so that's perfect. And this will be, just make a comment here that says something like that. Check or stack it. Whoops. Check for stacking. Basically, oh my gosh, my sticky fingers are. Can stack is our branch. That's the value we want. Then from here we also want a branch. Basically this is going to come through and be 0. It'll complete instantly. And once it's complete, we are going to add it. Whoa. Oh, I got it. We want to add it to our item stacking. But I think only if it's true. The value we want to add is actually this guy here, and this is checking our main env. We probably can have another local variable. Oops. Let's pull this out so we can edit that data. So this should say item stack, default 0 is fine. And what we want to is set this back to 0 here. And the false value is going to also set it back to 0. Yeah, it's going to give us something like that. And we'll comment this as final part of stacking loop. The condition we do want is the array length. So after this happens once for our first item, we can go through here and if the item can't stack, I'm just going to copy this over here. If the item can't stack, we increase this by 1. However, if it can stack, we immediately check if our item names are the same. And the item names we're checking against are, oh, nothing fancy. Basically, these two. I think we're going to have to divide this function into 2 parts. One where we set up our actual item count with slots and the item stack count that each slot is supposed to hold. And the second part where we set up an actual total count of the items on hand. I think. Or maybe one will end up, maybe the top one will end up replacing the bottom one. I don't know, but at this very moment, I am of the mindset that we're going to have, do all of this stuff, and then do all of this stuff, where we can set our pack capacity. Maybe. Anywho, we check if these are of the same name. If they are, well, if they're not, I guess what's easier is this is false. If they are true, we check if that one stack is at capacity. Let's paste that in here. And what data are we looking at here? In a super bizarre, strange way. If this is true, we adjust that count. The target array is, oh geez, it's all the way back here. And as this moves over, I'm just looking at the other monitor. The index we're looking at is the if stackable index from here. Or sorry, not from here. It's actually this array index. But it actually hooks up to here as well. And from here, right, and what we're checking against is the max stack. Let's collapse that struct and try our best to clean this up a little bit. I think this is a little bit neater. And of course, this has to set this to break. Let's slide that over. And I believe after all of that, after all of this, I believe we are able to set our We need a local variable to test against. There'll be of our item struct, and it's actually going to have to be an array. I'm just going to hook that up here. Whoops. Let's make a get. Plug that in. So now we can still run this function. However, what I would like to do is one last print string so we can get a readout just to compare and contrast these two. Because I believe now that our pack capacity can be set from the length of this array. I think. Real quick, we're going to have to link those up here. So in between here, I guess I'll just make a new print string. And let's make it orange. And make it 5 as well. And we're going to get a readout of our item stack. Sorry, not the item stack. The length of this array. Because what should happen after all of this is that we'll have a reference to a slot in our bag of the item data and the quantity that it's stacked at, I believe. And we're basically going to be able to call this function with my keyboard and compare the orange value with the yellow. If it's working. If it's not, I'm going to have to figure some stuff out. So, slot count is 2. Slot count is 3. Inventory full. I have a 2-slot bag. 2 slots are being used for our alloy. 1 is used for our gift. Let's just see that one more time. Well, herein showcases the exact discrepancy that we're having. Because now we're able to pick up more items. Perhaps it is because of Well, I think I will break for lunch. Might be a good point here. Still some stuff to figure out and fine tune regarding this quest of improving our item system. Oh, sorry, our inventory system rather. But yeah, I'll finish this off later today, and you guys can probably look out for a social media post regarding the update or showcasing the update in some form. But tomorrow we're going to be tackling the shop systems, which should prove to be quite fun. I'm actually looking forward to setting up those widgets and creating the functionality around them to sort of buy and sell items and add them, remove and add them to and from our inventory. And we're basically making use of the this function we've set up here, which will come into play. Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching the stream. We appreciate all the support and subscribes and likes and all of that stuff. And as always, if you want to see more media, you can check out our other YouTube videos or check out our social media profiles. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.